So today I wanted to go over the norm emissary size comparison. I wanted to go over it today real quick. First, I'm going to tell you how I got the size. So here's a clip from the last thing where they showed off all the Tyranids together. I measured the termagant that's closest to the norm emissary here against my termagant in real life, and figured out that the video had a 0.52% size increase from my monitor to the real life model. Here's my termagant against that termagant there, as you can see. That one's about twice as big. So I then took that 0.52% and measured the norn emissary here, which from the bottom of its base down here to the very top of its biggest fin is 13 and a fourth inches. And I just divided that by that, and I got the size, which I then printed out here. So I'm going to show you some comparisons with some models that you're going to be familiar with, and we'll start off with the Tyranid models. So here's the termagant versus norm emissary. As you can see, it just reaches the foot that's stepped up there. And you can see that's pretty accurate with this one here. If I move that up a little, it would probably be in a very similar position. So that's a good check. And then I have a von Ryan's leaper. As you can see, it's reaching pretty far up. About its longest arm reaches the norm emissary's arm, but this thing has a very tall reaching arm and actually only reaches about the knee with its horn. And as you can see from here, the Death Leaper is absolutely massive, with its stretched out talon reaching the very top of the norm emissary. And the lictors are pretty big too, also like standing like with their heads up to the arms. So a lictor is going to be about twice as tall as a von Ryan's leaper. Then I have a Screamer Killer. This lines up with the other photo they took too. The Screamer Killer is definitely a bit shorter than the norm emissary, but not by too much. Norm emissary will definitely tower over it, but its head isn't really far off of the norm emissaries. And honestly, it looks like it could honestly hold the fight against it. I imagine the rules norm emissary would be a lot stronger, but the Screamer Killer has big talons, makes it look like it'd be a worthy opponent. Okay, now onto some Space Marine models. Here we have an Furnace Marine from Leviathan. As you can see, it's standing a lot taller than the termagant. Here, and reaching about the claw on the leg. Then I have one of the new Terminators from Leviathan. It's also standing pretty similar to the previous Space Marine, but like to the top of the claw instead of the bottom of the claw. Then I have a Redemptor Dreadnought, which they said is about the same size as a Wraith Lord, and so is the Screamer Killer. So, as you can see, this is definitely a bit taller than a Redemptor Dreadnought, but still not by too much, unless you count the fins. The fins are actually really tall on this model, and it lines up with this image too, where you can see the fins are really, really tall. Okay, lastly, I have a Imperial Knight. I can't move the base with this since it would mess up the photo too much, so I'm just going to do it on its own. And line it up here because it's where it's be standing. As you can see, the Imperial Knight is much, much taller, but actually, not that much, actually. It's definitely a bit bigger, a lot bulkier. But the fins on the norm emissary will actually make it as tall as the Imperial Knight. Its head the rest of its body, though, is definitely a lot lower. So yeah, those who were worried that it was too small while watching the presentation, like I know who I was watching, said that they thought it was a little small and it should be knight size. It actually is kind of very close to a knight. It's not that much smaller. It actually makes sense for a biological organism, which the square cube law would not allow to be super big. This is actually probably like way beyond the realm of like realism already. So I mean, it's 40K, so who cares about realism? But it's definitely still up there with a knight. When the actual model gets here, the scale will look a lot better. But yeah, it's definitely up there with a knight. So thank you for watching this video. If you want me to go and do some other things like the lictors from the comparison to see how tall they are versus these models, leave a comment and like. And thanks for watching, and we'll see how big it is when it actually comes out. Hopefully I'm correct.